Let's talk about your family, your kids, and your wife.
I've only got 4 children.
You got 4 children. What's their names?
Beverly is the oldest one.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's 65 now. I'm not sure their ages.
Yeah, that's okay.
Elizabeth is past 60, but not much.
Mm-hmm.
I live with Elizabeth.
Right.
Elizabeth is the only one that's not married.
Mm-hmm.
She takes care of me like I was a child.
She's just trying to help.
And she's very, very helpful.
Then you have 2 sons.
And then we had 2 sons. Tom and his family lives in Tulsa.
In Tulsa. Uh-huh.
He has grandchildren already, of course. He has family gatherings about 2 to 3 times a week,
That's good.
where they all come to one of the houses of the family.
Mm-hmm. How many children does he have?
He only has 3.
3. So you have 3 grandchildren.
Sons. Only 2 are married and have children. But they do very well.
And your other son? What's his name?
David,
David. He have children?
he just has 1.
He has 1.
And David is, among his other chores, he's mayor in the city of the village.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he is. Okay.
He didn't intend to be. Apparently, they needed someone who would take the time to do the chores.
Mm-hmm.
He'd been there on the city council for a long, long time. So he ended up being the mayor.
Mm-hmm. So he's your youngest?
David's the baby.
Mm-hmm.
I think of him as a child. But David, either 58, 58, somewhere along there.
Mm-hmm. And he has children, or
He has 1
one? A son or a daughter?
son.
Son? Does he have grandchildren?
David's son is never married.
Oh, I see. Okay.
His son has a house here in Oklahoma City, but I think he spends about half his time with his folks out there when he's not at work.
Yeah.
His place in the city is not that far from the village.
Mm-hmm. So where did your family grow up? Your 2 sons and 2 daughters, where did they grow up?
Well, when I got married, I went off to the war. And when I came back, I had 4 children. 2 daughters were both born while I was in law school.
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth was still a baby
This is up in
when we left law school.
Harvard.
Harvard.
Mm-hmm.
I went in there. Always remember that. I'd been told, you just couldn't get in. But if you went in, they might take you.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly if you're in uniform and you came in there. But they were the only law school that started in October. I remember going in. I think young man who was seating all the first day. It was the first day of the school.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a uniform. I don't think he intended for me to stay.
Mm-hmm.
But he took me in to see the teacher who was about 82 or 83 years old. The old professor was kind.
Mm-hmm.
He told a young man who obviously didn't think I ought to be allowed to stay that it was all right and he would take care of it. And for me to sit down.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
From then on, I was in law school.
So how long were you in law school there?
I was a full term,
4 years or
just over 3 years
3 years? And both your daughters were born while you were up there?
while I was in law school.
Mm-hmm.
Beverly, soon after we got to law school, and Elizabeth was still a small child, baby,
Mm-hmm.
when I graduated.
And then after there, where did you move to after law school?
Came back to Oklahoma, thinking I could take the bar exam right away.
Mm-hmm. Were your 2 sons born here in Oklahoma?
One son was born, the younger one, in what now is still referred to as Baptist Hospital
Mhm.
frequently,
Okay.
but it's really not owned by the Baptist
And what
Convention anymore.
about Tom? Where was he born?
And Tom was born in Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. Okay.
We just built.
Mm-hmm.
We were on the north edge of town. Nobody had ever lived there before.
Okay.
And when I bought it, talked to the guy trying to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the deal was they put a sidewalk just inside the backyard all the way around. That was so that the hedge that was put around the sidewalk would still be
Mm-hmm.
usable. But with the children, with their toys and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
it was better to let them play in the backyard and have
Right.
a place that's solid ground,
Mm-hmm.
or solid that they could be on with their stuff. We had a big backyard.
That's good. Kids like that.
We were out in the country.
Mm-hmm.
But like I say, if you go out there and look at it now, it's almost in the middle of the
It's all It's all
city.
city.
Just kept
Yeah.
growing.
That's right.
We lived there for several years. I don't even remember how long, but it was quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
But then
Did you move back to Washington again?
I went back to Washington. First time I came back from Washington, I'd been in the village quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Washington, and I was gone that time about just over 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
When I came back, the house that I had been in before
Mm-hmm.
was already owned by other people.
I see.
And we bought a house in a new development. The first house was 1 floor.
Mm-hmm.
The one we bought out in the new development in the city, but it was further out.
Right.
The city circled the village.
Yeah.
Was a 2-story house.
Mm-hmm.
We had a 4 bedrooms upstairs and 1 bedroom downstairs.
Mhm.
We had 2 bathrooms upstairs, 1 bathroom downstairs.
That's good.
It was a big house.
Yeah.
Much bigger than we'd had in the first place.
Hmm.
First place was fairly small.
Well, 4 children, more bathrooms is good, right?
But when in our new house, we had an awful lot of small children at different times
Mhm.
for 2 or 3 days where there were problems in the families. In our little church.
Mm-hmm.
But my wife was always willing to take care of their little children where there was a problem,
That's
Sure.
good.
up to a week to 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
We never had any of them more than 2 weeks. But we had an awful lot of children at one time or another. I suppose we had more small children coming into our house than any place out there. But I suppose we were probably the only one fairly close to where the building was, up where the swimming pool and whatnot was.
Okay. Did you have a big backyard in that house?
Pretty good sized backyard. It's still out there.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have big backyards out there anymore.
Mm.
But the old houses still have big backyards.
Mm-hmm.
When they first started that development, it was different than it is
No, yeah.
after it came along. They were building houses for comfort when they first started.
Mm-hmm.
Emmerdale liked it though. She enjoyed having all the little children coming in. Of course, all of the families in the church and others out there that the country club that
Mm-hmm.
we knew well. If they had problems, we might have a child for 2 or 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes up to 2 weeks, but 2 or 3 days was more common. But Emmerdale would always take them in, and the children always seemed to enjoy it coming to our place.
That's good. It's good that you can help.
Emmerdale would always fix the food the way that she thought the kids would like it. I think Emmerdale really enjoyed that kind of life. She was the only lady in that group out there that didn't have a job. She just took care of the kids.
Well, that's a job.
It was a big job.
Yeah.
I'll always remember we were in the car going from a football game. I'd flown back from Denver. I got there, plane was late.
Mm-hmm.
after the kickoff, but not much after the game had started. I always cheered the boys on. And David was playing in that game. At that time, David was about in the third or fourth grade.
Mm-hmm.
But they had a football game. Probably he was the smallest boy on the field. But he was probably quicker than most of them.
Yeah.
And the coach had him playing in the backfield. Why? Because he outran so many of the other players. Anyway, driving along, Emdale was saying in substance, I shouldn't holler like I did. Besides that, they couldn't even hear you. From the back of the car, a little boy's voice was, Miss Bennett, we always can hear Mr. Bennett when he's there.
That's good.